A very good afternoon to all the students of class 11. Today the video is based on the Ailing Planet, the Green Movement's Role by Nani Palkhiwala. This lesson is very, very important, and especially today, in the contemporary scenario, this chapter holds a lot of importance, because among the students an awareness is created about the environment, the atmosphere, and the social responsibility of each individual to protect this environment. So, we begin with the title, The Ailing Planet. Now, ailing means a planet that is sick, okay? And like when you have any kind of a problem or sickness or illness, you go to a doctor and the doctor asks you for various symptoms, that are you having this, are you having that, and then you give your answers accordingly. So similarly, the planet, which is in a deteriorating condition today, is also suffering. It is sick, and there are various symptoms that you all children have heard about, and it's much talked about today. For example, we hear about global warming, we hear about climate change, we hear about extreme rainy conditions and tsunamis and cyclones. And then on the other side, we also hear of extreme dry conditions, drought conditions. So there is an imbalance that has been created. So over the years, man has realized the mistakes that he has made and the way he has harmed the environment. And it's like, for man, it's like he's sitting on the same branch that he is cutting. So we all have endangered our lives by ignoring, the call of the environment, and that we have actually damaged it to a great extent. But nevertheless, thanks to the green movement's role, which actually saw to this deteriorating condition of the earth, and then it was formulated and formed, and everybody was made aware of what we are doing to this planet Earth. And before it perishes completely, it's high time that we all get together and save it. As you know, we have a World Environment Day also. Every 5th of June we celebrate it as World Environment Day. Now, there are various causes and reasons for all this happening, like this global warming, for instance, if we take, and if we have to complete it and say what are the various reasons for it. Now, the first and foremost important reason is, of course, overpopulation, and this overpopulation has caused a lot of damage to planet Earth, because with overpopulation, there are various other things that are linked, because it's deforestation. Forests are being depleted, and trees are being felled for more land for agriculture, more land for industries, more land for housing. So as a result, forests, which are considered to be the lungs, of the world, because trees provide us with a lot of oxygen. So deforestation is a very, very harmful aspect that human beings have indulged in, and as a result we are facing global warming. How is deforestation linked with it? Because as we cut down trees, and we know trees provide us with oxygen, so there is more of carbon dioxide in the air, because the oxygen giving component is being killed. Similarly, as the population increases, we know that the transportation aspect is also there. More vehicles on the road, which are emitting a lot of carbon monoxide, which is again, the greenhouse effect that is there, the greenhouse gases that we call. Then there are factories and industries that are causing a lot of damage to air, water, and soil, So it is a big, big question mark for all of us to see what we are doing and how we can rectify the damage that we have already done. because factories also, they give out methane gas and other harmful greenhouse gases, which are very, very harmful. Then agriculture to a certain extent, because in India we know, I'm talking in terms of the Indian context, like agriculture, and globally also we can take it as a part of that, because farming also involves keeping animals, livestock that we talk about. We talk about keeping cows, sheep, goats and all. Now, from the livestock we get methane gas, okay, which is again a harmful gas. Then there is a lot of electricity wastage, there's burning of fossil fuels. So all these aspects are leading to this global warming, and we see that temperatures today in certain parts of our country and the world, they are rising abnormally. And we've also heard of glaciers melting because of this warmth that is coming up. And if these glaciers keep melting and the water just disappears, what are we going to endure in the future is a very, very, hazardous condition, or dangerous. It's really dangerous for the survival of humans or mankind. Now, this lesson, this was basically an article written by Nani Palkhiwala, which was published in the Indian Express on 24th November 1994. And this talks about the deteriorating condition of the earth because of man's growing lust, to exploit all the natural resources that we have. And we have actually, like the author says, that man has turned this earth or this planet into a burning pot and a barren land, so it's high time that we actually, pull up our socks and we respond to this cry of saving planet Earth. Now, the Green Movement was the only answer, to solve many problems at that time, and thankfully somebody had this brainwave and these people got together and they realized the consequences. And so far the efforts that have been made by the environmentalists have not been very, very successful, but nevertheless a stitch in time saves nine. And the immediate need is to, actually promote the concept of sustainable development, okay? I mean, like, we are progressing, we are developing, but then that doesn't mean in the name of progress and development, we forget about the future generations. We cannot exploit the resources to that extent that nothing is left for their use. So sustainable development is the right word that is mooted by the World Commission of, Commission on Environment, and Development 1987. And the author feels that it is a matter of relief that at least this awakening and this awareness is being created. And now people have actually started thinking of saving the planet by thinking of the development as a means, to control population, which is the mother of all problems. So this green movement which started in 1972, and the Green Party was founded in New Zealand in 1972, and ever since the movement has been gathering a lot of momentum. Now, this green movement, there were certain developments that took place under this movement, and the very first and important thing was that green movement shifted the focus from mechanistic view to a holistic and ecological view of the world. Now, mechanistic means, progress, machines, and, development and various other things that we are indulging in. But to shift from only producing and not seeing the damage being done and not rectifying it and not filling up for what we are using. So that was, a very important step taken to have a holistic and overall view. Not only think about progress and not only think about materialistic thing that we are making, but also think in terms of the planet and how we can save it and not harm it further. And ecological view of the world. Now, ecologic means basically the study of plants and animals, and also involves people in relation to environment. So that is ecological view. And holistic means the overall complete aspects on all accounts, you know, right from the atom and the cell by evolution to the most complex forms of life and mind. So that is holistic. Like in your report cards also, or in education also, we talk about the holistic development of the child. That is not only academics, but also you know, the physical aspect, the mental aspect, then the spiritual aspect, the emotional aspect. So that is the holistic development of the child. So similarly, they began to talk in terms of a holistic view about this planet Earth also. Then the second point was the revolutionary shift in human perceptions, you know, how they saw the planet and how they should actually see it. So they created a worldwide consciousness that the earth is not our property exclusively. I mean, we share this earth with other living organisms also. The flora, the fauna, we are all sharing it. We are not the only, man is not the only exclusive, one who has right over this planet Earth, but we are sharing it. So we have to realize that it is not only our duty to fulfill our needs only, but also to respect and preserve the metabolic needs and processes of the earth also. And that we should not be owners of this, but we should be good caretakers of this planet, and we must be responsible trustees of the legacy to future generations. We can't be selfish enough and only think about ourselves, the present, you know, the people living, but we have to think about all the generations that are going to be there in the future. Then various agencies, you know, they have helped in spreading the message that man shares the planet with about, you know, more than 1.4 million living species. Then man's dominance over these other species is not the right thing, but we should consider that we are living on this earth in partnership with other species. We all have a right to it, not exclusively human right, okay? Then the first Brand report raised a searching question that are we leaving our success as a scorched planet of advancing deserts? Now this means scorched planet where everything is burnt, there is no vegetation, you know. Deserts are, you know, you've seen that only sand and hardly any vegetation. So that is the idea, that are we going to burn and ruin and just leave this earth as a complete desert for the future generations? Or are we going to use our resources in a more, intelligent way, and so that we can preserve things, we can conserve things, preserve things for the use of future generations also. And it's high time we realize that the planet is ailing and we need to take steps so that the planet can recover, okay? Then the chapter also talks about the main 4 biological systems that the earth has, which are fisheries, forests, grasslands and cropland, okay? And the global economic prospect that is there in one of the books written by Lester R. Brown, they form the basis of the global economic system, okay? Now, we have to use all our resources very judiciously, okay, very carefully, so that we don't finish everything. We have to sustain all our resources. And in addition to supplying to our food needs, these 4 also provide all the raw material for industry except minerals and petroleum derived synthetics, okay? So we have to use these biological systems very judiciously. Now, where does the problem arise? The problem arises when we use these biological systems in a very careless manner, okay? Or we can use the word over exploitation. We are not using them judiciously or carefully. We are over exploiting all these. So as a result, what is happening to these biological systems? The fisheries are collapsing, forests are dwindling, and the grasslands are turning into wastelands, overgrazing, and all that. And overfishing is common, because people are concerned about a protein diet, a protein intake. So as a result, we are harming all these biological systems. And how ruthlessly forests are being cut down to meet the needs of people, not so much for firewood these days, but, for other developing aspects. And a very common example you can see is when we have these four lanes coming up, and how ruthlessly, I'm talking about Himachal especially, because when you come from Chandigarh to Simla, you can see that this 4-lane project, how many trees were chopped and felled, and when they were lying on the roadside, it was heart moving to see, as if they had been murdered ruthlessly and lying over there, and with so much of fresh air and the beauty of the hills being devastated and destroyed in such a manner, because more vehicles are there, so you need broader roads. So this is how man is ruthlessly, for his own gain, for his own comfort, harming the natural resources, okay? Then also because these forests are being decimated and trees are being, felled so ruthlessly and on such a large scale that we are actually encroaching onto the natural habitat of these animals. And as a result, what is happening? So many species are becoming extinct. And these poor animals, they started moving towards, the urban areas because they're not getting their requirement, their food or their habitat is not safe for them now. So, as a result, they are also, facing the brunt of it all. Then we also talk about the population. Earlier on it was believed that more hands means more work, means more money coming in. So that was the formula earlier. But, later on it came to everybody's, realization that this is not the aspect. More hands also means more mouths to feed, more place to stay, to live, to dwell. So as a result, all this was not in a very good situation. So as a result, population control needs to be worked upon very, very seriously, okay? And there is no development possible if the population keeps exploding, because this population explosion in India, you can see, is terrible. And how can everybody be provided with the basic needs if the population goes on increasing? So this chapter then again talks about the concern about saving the planet. And the survival of the planet is at stake today. And we must consider it to be of utmost importance to save this planet. So an awareness about environmental issues is a step for a better future, and it is being practiced also. Like we have these, on these environment days, tree plantations are there, and if you're giving a gift to somebody, you gift a plant so that, they can actually plant it. And all that awareness is being created in schools also. We have these Van Mahotsavs, but sometimes we see that they are not followed up, plants are, planted, but then there's no proper follow-up. And it's only numbers that we have on paper. But if we practiced it in letter and spirit and actually devoted our time to it, then the world would definitely become a better place to live in. Then that we must realize that we have, when we're talking about environment, when we're talking about plants, or we're talking about atmosphere, we're talking about the earth, we must consider it as an integral whole. That is man and plants and animals also. We have to think about all together as an integral part. Then in the industry, we must ensure that, we all come under this era of responsibility. Not only industries, but each individual. We must grow up with that feeling that we all owe it towards planet Earth, and each one of us must be a part of this responsibility to save this earth, to spread cleanliness around so that there are no, poisonous gases emitted. And, like in India, we've started this Swachhta Abhiyan and this, everything is there. But the thing is that we don't follow it in letter and spirit, We just want maybe, to the pictures for magazines and newspapers when everybody is coming out with a broom or, things like that and cleaning up areas. But this should become a regular habit with each individual, Only then can we save this planet Earth. So the era of responsibility must be actually continued for all generations, that we all owe it towards the earth. Then, just as in all these companies and all these workplaces, we have CEOs, Chief Executive Officers. So instead of Chief Executive Officers, if they designated themselves as Chief Environmental Officers, then maybe that would be a reminder that yes, they have to work in terms of protecting and safeguarding the environment also. And we all have an obligation to fulfill, towards planet Earth. So the basic thing is that we must remember, just as we have in the book, we have, Margaret Thatcher, the ex-Prime Minister of England, who said that, we must remember that we have not inherited this planet from our ancestors, but we have borrowed it from the future generations. So if you borrow something, you have to return it. So we must remember that aspect, that we have borrowed it from future generations and we have to return it to them safe and sound, not in a terrible condition where, like if you borrow something from somebody, you have to give it back in good condition. You can't give it, if you borrowed a book, for example, you can't give it back in tatters, torn and tattered and, all with all the binding falling. So, no, it's not like that, okay? So we have to give it back in a proper way, just as it was when we took it. So this is a very, very important chapter from the contemporary point of view also. So, awareness point of view also, we must consider that each one of us is responsible to safeguard this environment, okay? Now, just for a little bit of information that, you must know, you talk about the greenhouse gases. So what are greenhouse gases actually? The greenhouse, they are gases which are caught between the ozone layer and the surface of the earth, which is also called atmosphere. So these greenhouse gases, they absorb the heat and they make the conditions of the planet insufferably hot, which results in, as I told you, global warming. Now, because of this, it leads to the effects that we see, the natural disasters, the rising sea level increasing, then the extreme drought conditions, the cyclones and tsunamis that are taking place today. And, it's causing so much of damage to both life and property. Well, just in addition to what this chapter holds for us, I would just like to share with you about an article that is Environmental Crisis, written by Edward O. Wilson, in which he really talks about the environment, being in a jeopardy that is due to the humans who have been exploiting it, ruthlessly. So Edward O. Wilson, that is Edward Osborne Wilson, is an American biologist, a theorist, and a naturalist, and also an author, of course, as he has written quite a few books. And in his study, he says that, the developing world has most of the people, most species of plants and animals, and it is where most of the environmental deterioration is taking place and will continue to take place in the 21st century if proper steps are not taken, and an awareness is not created or enough education is not provided about the environment issues. And he feels that it is very, very important. And according to him also, the two major bottlenecks of are overpopulation and increasing consumption. So he has also very categorically written about overpopulation being a great obstacle, in the preservation of this planet. So we must actually work very seriously on these lines. Now, in addition to this, before I begin with the question and answers, I would just like to talk about the contemporary issue, that is COVID-19, which is more than an illness actually, because it clearly speaks of being a symptom of the ailing planet or the ailing health of our planet, which categorically highlights humanity's dysfunctional relationship with nature, which has led to this present crisis. And because this virus that is actually creating this havoc is supposed to be a zoonotic virus, that is, it has come from an animal to human beings. And it is a well-established risk cocktail of the 21st century. And, because the present ecosystem, the amount of destruction, the ecosystem destruction, then the loss of species, the global warming, then the risky human behavior, like illegal wildlife trade, then exploiting natural habitats. So, and then of course, climate change to highlight it all. And all these are risks for future generations, So it is very, very important for us to maintain a balance between ourselves, our working, and the area which has been, encroached upon of animals and, other species that are coexisting with us. So till we realize that we have to coexist, situations will not tend to become favorable. So we must realize that if we continue to work on the same lines, then the future has in store for us, many pandemics of various kinds which will keep attacking us, time and again. So we begin with the question and answers, pertaining to the chapter. The first question: what does the notice "the world's most dangerous animal at a cage in the zoo at Zambia" signify? This notice clearly signifies the fact that man is the world's most dangerous animal. And because man in his lust, has done more harm to the world than any other animal, because we all know that animals, when they attack in self-defense, otherwise they would never encroach upon human areas and things like that. It is we who have actually encroached upon their area, their habitat, and we have created miserable conditions for them also. So the most dangerous animal living on this planet today is man. The harm that man has done to the planet and to the other existing species on this planet, is really shameful. Next question. How are the Earth's principal biological systems being depleted? Now, the four principal biological systems are fisheries, forests, grasslands, and croplands. And they are being depleted because of the first major reason is overpopulation, and second is overexploitation. That is why they are depleting at a very fast rate. Okay, forests, as I told you, are being cut down not only for firewood but for agriculture, for housing purposes, and for various development projects that are coming up, and which is again leading to deforestation. Then grasslands are, converted into barren wastelands, overgrazing, and the croplands are also deteriorating. Next question. Why does the author talk about the growth of world population being one of the strongest factors distorting the future of human society? So population explosion is eating into the progress of society. It is the cause of perpetuation of poverty. Poverty can never come to an end if we do not put a stop to this population explosion. And all hopes for a better future are swallowed by the monster of population. Because, see, for example, in a family you have 2 children, and there's another family which is 6 children. Now, nutrition can be provided better to 2 children because a small amount is shared by 2 children. And in a family of 6, the same amount, small proportion, is divided among 6. So naturally, where is the standard of living also, and the standard of eating also, and the standard of nutrition also? So everything goes haywire when there is population explosion. Do you believe that laws are never respected nor enforced in India? To a great extent, I personally feel that and agree with this opinion. And basically, it is a matter of concern that people, especially the highly placed people, don't bother much for the laws. And because of lack of education, the people who are illiterate and who don't understand much, they also, don't pay much attention to these laws. And they are openly flouted by them. And as a result, we can, because of various evil practices in society, like untouchability, child labor, and bonded labor, and various other kinds of evils do exist in society because of poverty. And poverty is caused by overpopulation. And it's a fact that, here not much is being done by the legislation. Sometimes it just remains on paper, and it's not carried out, in the actual sense. This is like, in China, after the World War, many years after the World War, in 1949, the World War was 1939 to 45, and in 49, in China they announced that the family should have more and more children. At that point of time, they wanted more people, maybe more people to enroll in the army. Then they thought that more hands, for the working to work, and more money coming in for the country. But then gradually, after a while, they realized that this was creating havoc, and a stage was there when they understood that this population explosion would be very harmful for the country. So in about 2015, the one-child policy which they started with, then they stopped that, and because they had saw that with this one-child policy, which they were strictly following with stringent rules, they realized that the male and female gender balance was being disturbed. There was an imbalance created in the sex ratio. So as a result, in 2015, they decided to adopt another policy that is a two-child policy. So one has to be very far-sighted and think very carefully about the future. When plans are being made, you don't have to think about the present, basically, but you have to be far-sighted enough to think what the situation will be many years ahead, and laws from time to time have to be changed, and they must be enforced very seriously. Okay. Do you agree with the author's comment? Are we to leave our successors a scorched planet of advancing deserts, impoverished landscapes, and an ailing environment? This is very clear from what the chapter said about the 4 biological systems. The catastrophic depletion of the 4 chief biological systems, resulting in the fisheries collapsing and the forest disappearing, then the grasslands converted into barren lands, and croplands becoming less productive. Hence, we are depriving our children from all those gifts of nature. Because for the croplands also, sometimes you have to leave the land without any cultivation for some time so that it can recoup its soil energy and recoup its fertility. But when there is a population explosion, you can't afford to miss out on a piece of land not being cultivated. So as a result, the croplands also become less productive. Do the problems of overpopulation directly affect our everyday life? Yes, definitely. Overpopulation directly affects our everyday life, because all the natural resources, they are being consumed at a very fast rate, and overpopulation has eaten away all the resources. Poverty, then unemployment, then corruption, then black marketing, then pollution, they are all the product of overpopulation, and all these definitely affect our everyday life. Next question. When was Green Movement started? What is its aim? The Green Movement was started in 1972 by the world's first nationwide Green Party in New Zealand. Its aim was to shift the focus from having a mechanistic view to a holistic and ecological view of the world. As I had explained earlier, ecological view means we must maintain a balance of how we are using this earth, and we have to use it in partnership with all the species, the plant and animal species. What is the human behavior towards our ecology, okay? And holistic is the overall, we have to consider every thing that is surviving on this planet to be a part of this planet Earth, and we cannot consider this to be the property only of mankind. Wherein lies the significance of green movement? Now, this green movement, it makes people aware that our world is not a machine, okay? Not a machine. It is not a non-living thing. It also is a living organism, and it has its own metabolic needs, okay? And without looking into this aspect, we are treating the earth as a lifeless thing and not as a living organism. So obviously at some stage, the earth also seems to be suffocated, and at times it retaliates. Nature has its own ways and powers of retaliating, which we all experience in various natural calamities, So today we have realized that the earth has its own biological processes and its own metabolic needs, and we need to respect all that, and that is what the Green Movement has made people aware of. What is the holistic and ecological view of the world? The holistic and ecological view of the world means that, again, a little repeat, that the earth is a living organism. It's an enormous being of which we are parts, and we have to respect the metabolic needs and the vital processes of the earth, and they must be respected and preserved. Why is the earth compared to a patient? Now, the author, on a very sad note, has, talked about Ailing Planet, the planet that is suffering today because of the greed of man, okay? Because man in his greed has depleted the vital resources, the natural resources of the earth. And today the earth is like a patient, okay, whose condition is worsening or deteriorating day by day. Why? Because of the consumption of its strength and life supporting system. We're taking away everything from the earth. What are we giving back to it? Nothing. We're only taking, receiving, but we are not giving. We are not looking after it. So that is where, that is why the author has compared the earth to a patient. What do you mean by sustainable development? Now, this concept was started in 1987 by the World Commission on Environment and Development. Now, it means the concept of development which meets the needs of the present, but not at the cost of the needs of the future generations. We have to remember always that it is not only we who are going to exist, but after us, there are many more generations going to come, and they also have every right to benefit from all these natural resources, you know. So we have to look after the needs of the present generation also. Next question. What is the new awareness that has dawned upon the modern man? Now, the modern man has, come to realize that he has to shift from a system based on domination of the earth to one of partnership, that we are sharing this earth, okay? And today man has begun to value the policy of coexistence with millions of the living species. What is catastrophic depletion according to the author? Catastrophic depletion, it is a dangerous depletion or decimation of the forests in India over the last 4 decades. India is losing, this is old statistics, but still, India is losing its forests at a rate of 3.7 million acres a year. And they say that, actually, the percentage is much, much higher. But on paper, on official numbers are such. Areas which are officially designated as forests, they are virtually treeless today. The actual loss is about 8 times more than the official data. So this is a catastrophe. As I told you, that trees are our lungs. They provide us with oxygen. And if we don't get oxygen, we can die, of suffocation. So similarly, if we keep cutting trees, we are actually harming and endangering or jeopardizing our lives on this earth. What does the author mean to say by transcending concern? Now, the transcending concern means the concern which leaves behind many petty concerns, selfish concerns, petty concerns. Now, man's concern is not of humanity, but of the planet, the earth. Now, the world is seen as an integrated whole rather than a collection of separate and independent parts. Okay, so this concern which is filtering down now, and we have switched over from our thought process of being selfish to actually thinking about planet Earth also. What is the view of Mr. Edgar S. Woolard, the chairman of DuPont? Mr. Edgar says that the industry has a vital role to play in saving the environment. He calls himself the company's chief environmental officer. He wants to say that every manufacturer should actually designate himself as the chief environmental officer, so that, when they are making policies or when they are working in these industrial units, they should realize that simultaneously, it's not only production for materialistic gains or for earning or for economic reasons, but side by side they should remember that they have to preserve, or they have to safeguard the planet Earth also. What does Margaret Thatcher mean when she says no generation has a free hold on this earth? All we have is a life tenancy with a full repairing lease. Very important lines said by this ex-PM of Britain, and says that no generation of humanity has full and absolute rights on this earth to dominate on this earth. Everybody has to live here only as a tenant. Okay, we are all living our lives here on this earth as tenants with full responsibilities to repair the damage which is done to the earth. Just as when you rent out a house and you have your tenants living there. Now, if they're tenants, doesn't mean they can damage the property, because the landlords will immediately tell them to repair. And if they leave the house, or they leave on a certain for a certain reason, then they have to ensure that before they leave, they rectify any damage that has been done to that house. So similarly, our lives on this earth are also like tenants living in a rented house. Next, we have not inherited this earth from our forefathers, we have borrowed it from our children. Now, it is heartening to know that, this awareness has come up about the earth, and a new world vision has begun to emerge. It's, heartening to know that. And a new era of responsibility has ushered in. We have begun to realize that, no generation of humanity has absolute rights on this earth. Everybody has the responsibility to save the environment, to save the earth from further deterioration or further damage. Because we must think of the future generations. We cannot go on exploiting the resources available to us in a way that nothing is left for the future generations. And as I said, a stitch in time saves nine. Before things turn from bad to worse, we must begin to rectify or repair the damage that we have done. This planet, it is an inheritance to be preserved for the future generations. And it would really be criminal and, on our part, if we left behind a scorched planet, with a growing number of deserts. That would be very, very wrong on our parts to do such a thing. Okay. Then the next question. The problems of overpopulation directly affect our everyday life. Discuss. Overpopulation is a great bottleneck in the progress of any nation, and it is also the mother of all problems and evils. And they say that it took about many years to reach the billion mark, but every 4 days another million is being added now. So the population increases day by day at a very fast rate, and the result is that there is an all-round shortage of the basic necessities of life. Like we say, the roti, kapra or makan, these are the basic necessities of life. And forests are being depleted at a very, very fast rate and destroyed to accommodate more population, as I told you, for firewood, for building houses, for many development projects and things like that. And in the chapter, it has also been mentioned that firewood is becoming so expensive today that it is more expensive than what is being cooked. That what goes under the pot, that is the firewood, is more expensive than what is in the pot. Whatever you're cooking, that is not so expensive, but the firewood that you're using to cook that is more expensive. Then fisheries are collapsing, grasslands are, grasslands are turning into deserts, and croplands are less productive. There is food shortage, okay? The global temperatures are rising, and unemployed people, the list is, is growing, ever growing, because of this population explosion. And it is a cause of great concern. And we are responsible for much unrest and violence in the world today. With unchecked growth in population, if we don't control it, we can see that the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer, and the divide is getting too wide, you know. So we can see that overpopulation is actually a matter of great concern. Okay. Next question. How are actually this we have done, I'm not going to repeat it. What do you mean by sustainable development? Okay. Now the concept, it came in 1987 by the World Commission, and it means development that meets the need of the present generation as well as of the generations that are yet to come. So we should not progress at the cost of the needs of the future generation. Modern man has to recognize the fact that he should not use natural resources recklessly, okay? Otherwise, the future generations will only get a scorched planet of advancing deserts, okay? So sustainable development stands for a holistic view, an ecological view that is durable, and it is actually the need of the hour, that we can sustain ourselves, not only ourselves, but we have to sustain future generations also. Okay. What does the author mean by the era of responsibility? This is, a wonderful thought process that brings delight and relief that a new awareness has been created upon the people of the world. And this transcending concern that has made the modern man aware of the survival, not only of the people, but also of this planet that we are living on. And man has begun to take a holistic view of the world, and the new world vision has ushered in the era of responsibility. And this era of responsibility stands for a holistic view, which has changed from a mechanistic view to a holistic and ecological view, seeing that the world as an integral whole rather than a composition of the isolated and unrelated parts. So in this era, even industry has to play a vital role, where many manufacturers require to excel in environmental performance. That is why you must have seen that now aviators, they have to have a NOC, a no objection certificate, from various areas when any industry is being set up, and it has to be away from the populated cities and areas because of the fumes and various things, and they have to bring in that kind of machinery where there is least pollution. And with this era of responsibility, like, we have also ushered in the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle, to conserve and preserve, and so that the future generations are, their survival on this planet is ensured, okay? And all this can come around through education and, by responsibility shouldered by each individual. Okay, so the holistic era of responsibility and a holistic view, it is basically an integrated achievement of economic, environmental, and social goals of development. That is what basically holistic is, of economic, environmental, and social goals of development. We have to look into all aspects, okay, to be living on this earth, not only thinking about ourselves, our benefits, but also about the benefits of the earth and all the other species that are existing on this planet. So that was what the chapter was all about. I hope this video will help you in understanding it. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you all.